Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's statewide staff meeting focusing on blended learning for languages. Before we begin, I would ask you to please mute your microphones and video. Joining us in this session and monitoring the chat are Elizabeth, Evia, Marcella, Maxine and Chanel. If you have any questions or comments, please write them in the chat space. Could you please also write your name and school in the chat pod? If there are a group of you attending together, please write all names and the schools in there too. This helps us with our data and support we provide. Please be aware this session is being recorded, including the discussion in the chat. The recording of this will be made available for those who could not attend or who would like to watch it at their own pace. And again, if you've just joined us, please mute your microphones. Thank you. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the lands on which we are meeting today and pay my respects to elders past, present and future, and acknowledge the importance of observing the cultures, customs and traditions of Aboriginal Australia. I'm delivering from the lands of the Wonnarua people of the Hunter Valley, extending from the upper Hunter River above Maitland west to the Great Dividing Range. In this picture, you can see Byami Cave, located in the foothills of the Great Dividing Range in the Upper Hunter Valley, on the edge of Yango National Park, about 30 kilometres west of Singleton. The stories of this place are not publicly known, but it is believed by the Wonnarua Aboriginal custodians to be a painting of Byami, their creation spirit of all things and keeper of the valley. According to the Wonnarua Dreamtime, the Hunter Valley was created by the Great Spirit Byami. Before Byami, there was nothing. Everything was sleeping. Byami awoke and created everything, the mountains, plains, rivers, and every living thing. After Byami journeyed amongst the people, and having imparted to them knowledge, law, and ceremony, he returned to the sky, stepping up from Mount Yango nearby, hence its flattened summit. And now I would like to introduce the Languages and Culture team. Hopefully you're all familiar with these people, but just in case, we have based in Parramatta, Elizabeth Robinson. Would you like to say hello, Elizabeth?
Hello everyone, and it's so exciting to see so many teachers joining us on a Wednesday afternoon, so welcome.
Thank you. And we have, so Elizabeth's our coordinator, we have our Languages Advisor, Evia, if you'd like to say hello.
Hi everyone, welcome to this meeting.
Thank you. And also in Parramatta, our language officers, Maxine and Marcella. Maxine, would you like to say hi?
Hi, it's so nice to see everyone and hopefully we'll be blending.
Thank you. And Marcella?
Hello everyone, nice to see everyone again.
Thank you. And language officers Chanel and myself are based in the Hunter. Chanel, would you like to say hi too?
Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed this session.
In addition to us, we also have Tucker and Miyoko from the Tonkin Centre that are part of our team as well, and I know that they're joining us today too, so hi to both of you. Our role is to provide support to language teachers 7 to 12 in implementing New South Wales language syllabuses through professional learning advice and resources. We encourage you to connect with us and each other through various means such as Facebook, email, our blog, Languages New South Wales, Twitter, and of course Yammer, our statewide staff room. The quote by Susan Patrick sums up the theory behind blended learning. With all the tools and skills learnt through COVID-19, we have a perfect opportunity to reflect on how these can be used in a blended learning environment. Blended learning requires a cultural shift in the instructional model with a growth mindset and an entrepreneurial spirit of continuous improvement. It is not layering technology onto old instructional models. Pioneers in blended learning are using technology as an engine for personalisation, deeper learning, and to optimise student success. What is blended learning? Blended learning combines online delivery of content and practice with classroom interaction and live instruction. Blended learning personalises learning, differentiates instruction, allows thoughtful reflection, and caters to a range of learning styles. My apologies. Take a moment to read the text on the image. What does blended learning look like? Virtual learning platforms, inquiry project-based learning, technology integration, global connections, game-based learning, direct instruction, peer mentoring, and focus on mastery. The world is your classroom. It is impossible to memorize all of the available human knowledge, so education is no longer about memorizing facts and answering test questions, but about applying knowledge to real-life situations and knowing where to find reliable information. The teacher may not have all the answers. Teachers in a blended learning environment are there to provide guidance and support, act as discussion moderators, and give direction and feedback to student projects, but are no longer the only source of knowledge in a typical top-down structure. School is not the only place where you can learn, nor will you stop learning once you have graduated. Educating yourself is a continuous process that follows you everywhere. The advantages of blended learning. Self-pacing for slow or quick learners reduces stress, increases satisfaction, and information retention. Students have the ability to track their progress, set their own learning goals, and own their learning. Access to global resources and materials that meet the student's level of knowledge and interest. Students learn through a variety of activities that apply to many different learning styles. Focus on deeper learning. A comparison of activity types. On this slide, in each arrow, we can see face-to-face activities in plain text compared to a digital form of the same activity in italics. Face-to-face presentations could be a virtual classroom. Group activities and projects could be collaboration online tools. Textbooks and workbooks could be online media and activities. Readings and handouts could be online research. Self-study materials, online materials and apps. Practicals could be simulations or virtual tours. Assessment and quizzes, online interactive sheets and quizzes. One-on-one help could be online mentoring between the teacher and student or peers. A mix of these activities can be considered for use in the blended learning environment. What do you need for a successful blended learning environment? A positive attitude and a sense of adventure. Blended learning may be a change for your classes, so your positivity and enthusiasm will go a long way to bringing students on board with this journey of change. Access to technology. Think about the technology you and your students have access to and start planning on how to best utilize it in your blended classroom. Bring your own devices, phones, iPads, computer labs, the internet, VR headsets, virtual tours are some ideas to get you started. Clear communication of expectations and instructions. Take time to explain to students the benefits of their blended learning experience for them. Be sure to stop and explain the process, instructions for tasks, and expectations along the way as they learn in this new environment. Organisation. Help students become organised to gain confidence and take ownership of their own learning. Consider templates, planners, scaffolds, goal setting, reflection journals. Be sure to model how to use the tools, monitor their use, and guide students how to use them most effectively. Patience. New routines take time to set, but consistency in communication will help. Resilience and courage when things go astray. Unexpected things will always pop up, and no matter what your learning environment is, so do not panic. Be kind to yourself and celebrate what has gone right. Have a plan B for if plan A doesn't come to fruition. Learning is a journey, and journeys come with many paths. A leap of faith in your students as independent learners. With the right tools and guidance, your students' creativity and interests will lead to personalised learning experiences. How can you set up your blended learning environment? Workstations, individual learning and exploration, project work, collaboration, choice boards, in-class computer labs, assessment, and self-reflections. We are going to look at each of these elements in more detail in a moment. We will now look at these ideas applied in the blended learning environment for languages. Workstations. Learning is more engaging through multiple delivery platforms, and a teacher workstation gives time for discussion with the teacher. One idea for a workstation could be an individual nook, where students can complete individual interest projects, adapt language learnt to their own individual world by creating their own lists and extended structures. Could be learning reflection time, blogging or vlogging, and communicating with other language speakers. A listening niche workstation could have listening posts using earphone splitters, interactive listening sheets, for example, Wiser and Google Forms. Students could watch video clips and create or answer questions. In a game zone workstations, there could be language card games, online activities such as Quizlet, Quizlet, Languages Online, Duolingo, and perhaps they could compete with other schools. Word puzzles and sentence jumbles, both online or printed. A chat corner could have stimulus speaking cards for group talk chats on topics, Flipgrid online video clips, Google and Wiser forms to give spoken responses to. They could create video messages to send to other language speakers. A creative collaboration corner workstation. Students could create role plays, create video clips to share with other schools or language speakers. Topics could include discussions on places, movies, restaurant reviews. They could create virtual tours or a school tour to share. And a teacher hangout workstation. Here, students could interact with the teacher to gain feedback, advice. They could have individual or group practice or individual or group support. In-class computer labs. Stay engaged with your students when they are in computer labs. This is an opportunity to give feedback, individual support, and to get to know your students better. Teams and OneNote class notebooks. Shared information, real-time monitoring and feedback allow the students to access information, work on tasks, and apply advice as they collaborate online with their teacher and peers. Mentimeter surveys, interactive online worksheets, and language game sites. These can be set up for a week, a term, or unit of work for the students to select and respond to at their own pace when in a computer lab. Individual tasks. Students can use their time in the computer lab to work on assessment tasks, personal interest projects, communicate with other target language speakers. Individual learning and exploration. Personalised learning for different paces and interests. Students can set their own learning goals. Provide students the tools to explore, extend, and manipulate language to their own interests and pace. Think about scaffolds, thinking tools, and modelled examples, and give the students templates. Here we have an example of a conversation planner to encourage students to think more deeply about content, structures, and authentic language they can use when composing their shopping conversation. If this is an assessment task, students could be given the marking guidelines to consider when planning their response to ensure they are addressing all criteria. For example, using a variety of sentence structures and including adverbs and conjunctions. There is also a section for students to consider where to seek help to avoid the Google Translate response. This is an example of a thinking tool, a T-chart, that can be used when making comparisons. In this case, students were asked to write a review about an Indonesian restaurant. To give a fair review, they have listed the pros and cons in English and then added language they will use to convey these points. Again, they could consult the marking guidelines to ensure they are including the elements that will produce the best response possible. Provide students the online tools to explore language in a variety of ways and authentic settings. Links to online authentic resources like books, ads, videos, movies and songs, and even resources such as this Italian menu. Web links to language and grammar explanations. A quick Google search for grammar or vocab in the target language will give many options. Virtual tours are plentiful on the internet and can be enjoyed through VR headsets for another perspective. Teachers or students can create and share these tours incorporating authentic text, language activities and cultural information. Here is a link to a virtual tour of the Eiffel Tower created by Maxine on our team with Google Sites for you to check out. It is a fun and interactive activity that includes access to authentic French text, cultural and historical exploration, and language activities. Project work. Higher order thinking activities while developing language skills. Here is an example of a choice of 3 different tasks for a final assessment that assesses the same outcomes in French, which can be completed in the blended learning environment. Students can create a shopping tour of Paris, a restaurant movie, or a fashion comparison. It is important to note the outcomes being assessed are the same, regardless of what the students choose. Consider giving projects for assessment or mini-tasks that students can choose from to cater to interest, learning style, and own pace. Language to be assessed can be demonstrated across a range of contexts. Encourage students to create their own projects or tasks to demonstrate learning. They can use technology or not. Creativity and personal interest increases motivation and engagement with the language. Students are interacting and composing in the language, and all tasks include intercultural understanding. What is available in a place, giving opinions including descriptions, colours, prices, adjectives, both positive and negative. Mini-tasks can be completed in the Workstation session times throughout the unit to build these skills in different situations. For example, a restaurant or online shop review. An online example of scaffolding tasks for students so that they can work by themselves in the independent workstations in a blended learning environment can be found at the Adobe Spark link we have here. The following slides show a preview of this site. This is an example from our Italian Stage 4 unit that's on our website. The first part of the Adobe Spark shows the title of the unit. Then the students are taken to the outcomes of the task that they also find on their notification. This goes on to a motivational video for students related to the task. In this case, how to order pizza in Italy. As they scroll down, they'll find the task description. They'll find the marking criteria as per the notification. And any variations, for example, tasks for students with a background in the language. They scroll down further to find online scaffolding, which allows for extra information such as things to consider when communicating with group members, suggestions for collaboration, and things to consider when completing the task. Towards the end, technology support and advice for completing the task can be given with links to online tools and video clips with language support, such as this listening comprehension task on ordering pizzas in Italy, which not only is an understanding activity, but also models language that may be used in the task. At the end, a related cultural clip and links to TripAdvisor reviews of pizzerias in Italy can be shared to again model language and promote intercultural understanding. Collaboration. Students can interact, exchange and contribute resources online. A few examples are highlighted here with Capwing for video collaboration, where students can work on editing the same video from different places at different times. Adobe Spark also allows for multiple collaborators to produce websites, posters and videos, and Google Docs is a great tool for brainstorming, collating information together. Collaboration can extend beyond the classroom. In a blended learning environment, it can be used between members of the same class to work on group tasks and assessment. Background prior learning speakers from different classes can work together on group tasks and activities. In many schools, these students may be the only one in their class, so this creates an opportunity for them to work with students of a similar background for increased interest and challenge. If teachers could coordinate this, it could even occur between students at different schools. Students and teachers from different schools, both in Australia and overseas. A whole world of communication and new perspectives between target language speakers and native speakers is possible. Whether it is two classes sharing ideas using Flipgrid, playing Quizlet or Kahoot live at the same time from different places, creating videos with partnerships between students of different classes. This is a fun way to broaden the reach of language experiences, build relationships, and raise the profile of languages. This increases the audience, context, and purpose of communication for greater authenticity and personalisation. It allows for peer mentoring and teachers sharing skills across classrooms. Choice boards. Through choice boards, students can be given a range of tasks they can use to explore the language with or without technology at their own pace and stage of learning. It's great for individual practice time during computer lab or workstation sessions. These can be modified to focus on specific language structures, skills, topic areas, and learning styles and needs. You can find samples in our statewide staff room. Students can track their own achievement and seek resources needed to develop skills when working on assessment. Online self-assessment and self-reflection tools are readily available or can be set up by teachers for students to use. Interactive worksheets and quizzes in places like Wiser, Quizlet, and Google Forms can be set up to automatically correct student responses. These can be printed for in-class tasks where technology is not available. Teachers can access these results too, which is great for formative assessment. Students can track their own achievement and seek resources needed to develop skills. Rubrics with explicit success criteria can be shared in print forms or online through Google Forms for students to self-reflect. Here is an example of a marking rubric for composing text. Tasks in a unit of work should be backward mapped from a final task that they are building skills towards during the unit. By providing students with this final task marking rubric at the start of the unit, they have a deeper understanding of what is expected from them and can consult it when completing tasks throughout the unit to ensure they are developing the appropriate skills to the best of their ability. Here we can see a Google form set up with a marking rubric and self-reflection space. You can take the marking criteria from the assessment task, such as in the previous slide, and add it to a Google form. This is a great way for self-reflection. Students can use this at milestone points during the unit of work to set new goals and monitor their own progress. Teachers can access these to monitor progress, provide feedback, and customise support. Self-reflections. Teaches students how to learn, promotes deep thinking, and a growth mindset. When engaging in self-reflections, students may need guidance in the purpose and process of doing them. I highly recommend reading your student learning reflections regularly and giving them explicit feedback to make this process as effective as possible. Many students start with basic responses but are not able to connect them to learning goals without some help at the start. An online guide for you and your students to get started with language learning reflection journals can be found at the Adobe Spark link there. We've also provided these links on our websites, Facebook, and our statewide staff room in Yama. The following slide shows you what this site looks like. At first, a purpose statement for students to understand why self-reflections are useful. It goes on to show types of journals that students may use. These can be written, digital, visual. Another suggestion could be to use OneNote class notebooks for easy collection and feedback for teachers and for use in computer lab sessions. A video guide on how to make a language-specific learning journal. As the students scroll through this site, they can find questions they can ask themselves when reflecting. For example, here we have remember, what did I accomplish? And they have some samples there of things they could write. Understand, what is important about what I did? Apply, where could I use this again? Analyze, are there patterns in my work or in my behaviour? Evaluate, how well did I do? What could be done differently? Where can I go for help? Extend, how can I use this knowledge in the future? A few other video clips on the use of language learning journals are provided there as well. They're done by successful language learners overseas, just normal teenagers like themselves. Visual communication with your students. Communication with your students could involve instruction and feedback. To help make this easier for students to identify and process what is required, you could consider using consistent emojis or icons. Tricia McDonald, head teacher of wellbeing at Barrel High School, recently shared examples on Yammer and Twitter and kindly shared them with us. Chunking text into easy-to-read points with an icon supports all students, including those with additional learning needs. Tips for successful blended learning. Blended learning may feel a bit challenging to start with, but remember the goal is to find the best way to improve your students' experience. Here are some tips on how to start with blended learning from the blog showme.com. Plan it out and start small. Define the needs of your students, your possibilities and equipment. Decide on which model of blended learning you want to start with and plan a key strategy. Don't be afraid to start small. There's no rush and no need to redo the entire program. Begin with little steps and extend the experience as you get more comfortable with it. Begin with simple and intuitive technology. While the tech tools available to us are excellent, many of them are easier to use than others. Choose the tools and platforms that require the least amount of technical know-how. Focus on students' collaboration. One of the blended learning goals is to increase the participants' partnership. Make sure that the devices and media you are using in the teaching process encourage collaboration on both levels, digital and in the classroom. Observe the outcome. Constantly evaluate what works and what doesn't. Ask students for their opinion. Analyze what you get and adapt based on received feedback. And go further. Once you successfully blend some parts of your curriculum, go bigger. Find another tool worthy to try. For instance, turn lessons into online video content or make online assessments. I think it's important to keep in mind the messages of these two quotes. Technology will not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. And if we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. In closing, I would encourage you to explore some of the strategies demonstrated today and try them with your students. Even if you are not ready for a blended learning environment at the moment or are not feeling too confident, these tools will still create engaging and personalised learning environments for your students. They will help you gain confidence bit by bit for when you are ready to create a blended learning environment or for times when they may be forced upon us as we've experienced this year. Of course, as always, our team is here to support you. No questions too silly. We have already created many guides and instructional videos of these tools, which have been shared through our statewide staff room in Yammer, Facebook, and our blog. We would love to hear your experiences with different tools and blended learning experiences too, so please contact us with your stories. We wish you the best for the rest of Term 3 with your students, and special well wishes to our HSC students and teachers in coming weeks. We look forward to seeing you in Term 4 for our next statewide staff meeting on feedback. Our team will stay behind now for questions and answers, bit of a chat for those who would like to remain behind, but please also feel free to leave at any time, and thank you very much for your attendance this afternoon.